Yarmanindai, Nayagid, Catherine Trindall, Gomeroi Mada Yinnar, Wallaby Agan Yurampa, Blue Danglion, Nadavaradi, Naringlala Walela Atunga, Tamworth D. Naya, Gomeroi, Winnagali, Eora Gadigal Nuru, Gomeroi, Wallaby Agan Nuru, and yeah, good evening. So hi, my name's Catherine Trindall. I am the Deputy Chair of the New South Wales Aboriginal Languages Trust. I'm also a very proud Gomeroi Murri Yinnar from northwestern New South Wales. I wish to pay my deepest respects to the traditional owners and custodians of these beautiful lands and waterways that we gather on every day. I also acknowledge those that walk with us spiritually every day, and those that have gone on before us. In saying that, I'd like to take a moment of reflection for those that have gone before us, that have led the way, and for those babies that are born today as the cycle of life continues. So just a few minutes or a few seconds just to reflect. Gabaninda Nindai, thank you all. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge our distinguished guests who are here, and in saying that, I applaud that to all of you and each and every one of you who have chosen to come to this special event tonight. I also wish to acknowledge the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs who is here, who is a true friend of us in terms of the Trust, and I acknowledge, thank you for coming here today too, Minister. But I also acknowledge each and every one of you from the lands that you have travelled. Myself, I'm a visitor to this country. I'm not from here. As I said, I'm a Gomeroi Murri Yinnar from northwestern New South Wales, and in saying that, I acknowledge that I'm a visitor to this beautiful country. The New South Wales Aboriginal Languages Week, which we are still in the midst of, started out of acknowledging the fact that New South Wales is the only state or jurisdiction across the length and breadth of Australia that acknowledges that we were the first voices spoken on country. It's significant. When we reflect on the past few weeks in terms of a voice, I'm very mindful of my ancestors. I'm very mindful of country that talks to me every day. They are on the wind, they are in our animals, they are everywhere. So when we talk about a voice, we are sovereign people, and I'm standing on unceded land. Our languages is more than the spoken word for me. It's my identity. It centres me, it tells me from where I'm from, it gives me my rules and laws of living, and it also acknowledges my ancestrals in terms of my connection back to my country. We are acknowledged as traditional custodians from where I'm from, of Narrabri, northwestern New South Wales. I'm currently living on country though. So it's important that this week acknowledges what the New South Wales government has done in terms of 2017 when the New South Wales Languages Act was enacted. It's significant. But with that comes accountability. So we, as Aboriginal custodians of our languages and our cultures and knowledges, need to hold the government to account, because that legislation, they have acknowledged us as having the first voices spoken on country that we call Australia. The Language Trust had applications for language grants to celebrate this week, and 16 communities from across New South Wales are currently in the midst of celebrating and acknowledging that our languages are alive and our culture is thriving. So it's important that we acknowledge that. I'm hoping, and I know it will be a fantastic panel here this evening. I'll give you a little plug at the end of this evening about where you can jump onto our website and have a look at all the remarkable things that we're actually doing across the state of New South Wales. But we are leaders. We are leaders across the world. Why? This, to my knowledge, and I stand to be corrected, is the very first time that there's been one designated week in terms of, well, Australia particularly, that acknowledges our languages. So enjoy this evening, and without further ado, I'm going to introduce a lady that doesn't really need any introduction. She's a remarkable musician. She's a remarkable storyteller and an author, and she's from my mob too, so can't get any better than that. So Nadia Simpson is going to be your chair for this evening. So I'm going to hand over to her to introduce you to the remarkable panel that you've got in front of you.
Thanks, Aunt. And I'd like to reiterate your acknowledgement of Gadigal country, Gadigal spirit, Gadigal ancestors, and the songs and the sounds of this place, and ask it to come and inform me and us in our sharing tonight. Great to see everybody. Welcome to the First Nations Speaker Series, brought to you by the Aboriginal Languages Trust for the New South Wales Aboriginal Languages Alive Culture Thrives Week, the very first inaugural New South Wales Aboriginal Languages Week. And we're sitting right in, we're sitting in history. Hey, yeah. I'm Nadi, and it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to the deadly panellists up here tonight. Auntie Cleonie Quayle is a Malyankapa Barkangee woman and an Aboriginal field officer and paralegal at RLWG. She's worked in the field of law for over 20 years, specialising in stolen generations, social justice, mental health, family violence and criminal justice system advocacy and support for Indigenous people. Aunt was the recipient of the prestigious Law and Justice Foundation of New South Wales Aboriginal Justice Award, as well as the Mudjungal Award for her work in the areas of family violence and access to justice for Indigenous people escaping violence. Aunt is also a jewellery designer and maker, and she uses fibre and natural materials to craft work that celebrates the environment, landscape, healing and nature. Please welcome Auntie Cleonie Quayle. BARKAA is a Malyankapa Barkangee woman with roots in Western New South Wales, living on Gundungurra land in southwest Sydney. BARKAA is an ARIA-nominated, NEMA-winning musician whose album Black Matriarchy was winner of Album of the Year at the FBI SMAC Awards, and also took out the 2022 Best International Hip Hop Single of the Year award at the International Indigenous Hip Hop Awards. This deadly lady not only sings up blackness, confronting racism and prejudice through her art, but she uses her craft to share her rich cultural heritage with audiences around Australia and the world. Named the new matriarch of Australian rap by GQ magazine. Please welcome BARKAA. Joedie Lawler is a Biripi woman from Taree and a mother, most importantly. Artist and weaver. From a large family, Joedie's always been involved in advocating for her people. And as a senior project officer with the Aboriginal Languages Trust, Joedie names her connection to family, community and country as driving forces in the roles with community and government organisations she has in New South Wales, has had in Northern Territory and South Australia. A Gathang language holder. Joedie is passionate about her work with the Aboriginal Languages Trust and her continued support for the journeys of many language-speaking communities connected through the Trust. Please welcome Joedie. Andy Saunders is Biripi Man Gathang speaker and one of Australia's most popular and successful everything acts As a comedian, Andy has performed and hosted events around the country, including Deadly Funny, Adelaide Fringe Festival, Aboriginal Comedy All-Stars, ABC Comedy Up, Late TV, and the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, amongst other things. He also sings. I heard he's a deadly dancer. He acts, and he can also renovate a house, put a pool in for you, fix your back deck, and have your granny flat ready for knockout next year. So please welcome Andy Saunders. So, do we have royalty? Do we have royalty, blackfellas? You're a matriarch? Nah. We have ambassadors in the house. Ambassadors in the house. Andy and BARKAA, ambassadors for New South Wales Aboriginal Languages Week. What have you mob been up to? Tell us some of the things that you've been doing this week.
You want to go first? Yeah, okay. God, we've been up to a lot, eh? Yeah. It's been an honour. Like, I've been, we got to... It's been so emotional, you know. My mum got to go out on, back onto BARKAA country, and my mum got to see our language getting spoken on country for the first time, and I think it was such a beautiful moment to have my daughter there, and, it was like that 3 generations back on country and on Country Strong, and we got up to that. I think it's been the most exciting time of my life, I've been around mob and just been doing such important things, and then getting back together at the NCIE to celebrate it all together, and even being interviewed by you, like
low light.
But I'm just honoured, I'm just like around so many deadly mob, and I'm just so incredibly inspired and just love yous.
I've loved it because it's been an honour to meet all of this mob, and not Joedie. I've known Joedie since she was born. We're actually brother and sister. I said that being ambassador for this in particular has been probably the most important thing I've done, besides like traditional parkour and being a father, but we always go through things as people, and we talk about what'd you learn, what knowledge did you have, tell me about the experience. But for blackfellas, about how it makes them feel, and things like this, even though they're going through a learning experience, in the end, it makes them feel validated, loved, needed, seen, acknowledged. And, this is about reclaiming something that wasn't lost but was taken. And, we all hear those stories from our elders and our grandparents and all of our uncles, aunties and mothers, fathers. I wasn't allowed to speak it. I got the cane if I said lingo at school. This happened to me and this happened to me. And as a kid, you don't really understand that until you get older and grasp what that really means. And that's shocking that you couldn't speak your first language because of what happened. You don't want to drill into too much of what happened, but I just, for years and years I've felt really bad for my elders. But to have a week like this week and the undercurrent that was around it and before the week and that momentum behind it, not just from blackfellas but mainstream people and non-Aboriginal people, and the growing interest from that side as well, after what happened the week before to Aboriginal people. And I'm not against what people voted, but that was again something that would have made Aboriginal people feel wanted, needed, validated, seen and acknowledged. But But it felt like a week like this Aboriginal Languages Week, we didn't need that because we already done what we needed together in a week like Aboriginal Languages Week. Yeah, and it's going to continue to grow exponentially.
And I love when you're talking about, you know, languages weren't lost, and I've seen you talk with your daughter about this, this thing. Can you talk a little bit about that? We often, that word lost, you know, I always think about that, oh, languages are lost, but we weren't careless in that. We didn't misplace this.
No.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, when you think about the meaning of lost and forced out, it was, and it's through fear, because we, like a lot of people, you don't have an army behind you because you feel like you know, there's more important fights elsewhere. For my grandfather, his fight was rearing 10 children and feeding them and putting a roof over their head. It wasn't so much about keeping his language, even though that was really important, because that was at the core of his being and who he was and where he came from and his identity. And if you don't have that, then you don't have confidence in as being a human being moving through society. So, I mean, my grandfather done a lot to provide for his family. To me, he's a pioneer. He's someone that every bit of good that's in me comes from him. So all the bad I just developed on my own.
And he has the oldest standing Aboriginal business in Australia.
And he has the oldest standing Aboriginal business.
What does he do?
Fishing. Yeah.
Oh, bless him.
When he was moved off the mission, Purfleet mission, he established a fishing business to train his sons into the industry, and that business is still running today.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't have all the 7 sons in it, but yeah, two of the uncles are still there, kicking through.
Great.
You get a feed of prawns still. That's the main thing, and a bit of fish. But you know, for us, he was a pioneer, and you know, there was so many books that we could rip pages out from his life and sort of just follow that line, because he instead of telling us how to do it, he showed us how to do it. So, and for me, with Aboriginal languages, seeing all of our language holders who, you know, are also language sharers, that's a prime example and the epitome of showing people how to do something. You know, like the old saying goes, no man's your enemy, no man's your friend, but every man's your teacher. And for us, we are definitely teachers, and we have been for a long, long time. And yeah, I find weeks like this, especially this, being the very first. They should have been years ago, by the way, but the very first week of such an important thing to attract so many people and such amazing talents like BARKAA and all the other artists, you know, JK47 and Murri Mala, the guys that sang their entire set in language was just so refreshing, and just it hit to the core of me, and my heart just swelled with pride. And I did shed a few tears once because there weren't no sausage sangers left, but also because of the culture that was showcased on the day through language. I did get a sausage sandwich, and it was fine.
And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how language works for you in your family, and maybe between you and your daughter.
I was born in 61, so I'm 21. And I was removed in 65 as part of the stolen generation, and certainly grew up very, you know, to discourage from speaking language. So it probably wasn't until when I turned 18, I sneaked into the Clifton Hotel, which was a famous hotel in Redfern, and Aboriginal hotel. And I'd often hear, groups come down and speak a bit of language. When I grew up in the 80s in Redfern, afterwards, because I was denied language, went home and all the rest of it, I sort of knew a lot of everybody else's language, a bit of everything, and, what you were saying about, it was really good because people would say, who are you, where you're from, which was really important to Aboriginal people. And, so I spoke a bit of Bundjalung and a bit of Gomeroi and a bit of everything at the time, because that's what would happen. Mob would come down and speak bits of everything, so you'd end up speaking a bit of everything, So it really didn't happen till Chloe became, or BARKAA I should say, BARKAA became the...
She wants to say her baby.
My youngest. Wasn't until we like Chloe started singing in language, and Chloe really wanted to really promote our language, which was really great. You hooked up with Auntie Kayleen and started learning. So some of her songs are actually in language, which was really, really powerful because, it's always great to hear language. Like I remember when Yotha Yindi came out singing Treaty and it was in language and, we all sang along to it, even though I had no idea what I'm singing about, but, I sang along to it anyway because it was in language, and you felt like you were connected, you owned something. And so hearing BARKAA singing in language was reclaiming our language, because when I went back and met my Nana, Nan wouldn't speak language in front of everybody. She'd only speak it in the bedroom. And sometimes I'd stand outside the bedroom and listen to her and her sister talking in language, So she was really good when she was angry. We'd hear language, so I never grew up. So Chloe, through her BARKAA.
God, it's fine.
Who are you?
I'm your baby.
So through her singing, really introduced us to our language, which was, because growing up, my people, my generation, my brothers, nobody'd speak it.
No.
Because there was that fear of getting children removed, which is what happened to us. It was the whole 60, like the exemption, if you behaved a certain way and didn't speak language, gave up culture, then you're entitled to certain things. So our culture, you pretty much didn't do that. So to now hear Chloe and even BARKAA and Alinta, because Alinta, Chloe's daughter, at school, she had to write a poem Little Kinji, sorry. Had to write a poem in language. They're just trying to confuse me, mucking with my mind now. Had to write a poem in language at school, and she did it through the AECG app as well as asking a mum and all the rest of it. And I'm going to get emotional. I was so proud that the school offered that opportunity, because I never got that. I learnt French, German, Italian and, every other language.
And Bundjalung in Redfern.
Bundjalung, Gomeroi, few of them, yeah. Learn how to swear too, but, to see the teachers give her a task to write a poem in Barkindji, was just so beautiful, you know, and when she came home and read it to us and, you know, was asking her mum, what's this word, you know, like having input into something your own, you know, it's totally different to a standard assignment, you know, an English assignment, you know. It's something you really, you know, you really feel amazingly proud of, and that's probably a highlight that's going to stick with me forever, is having your granddaughter encouraged by the school to write a poem in language.
It's brilliant.
Beautiful.
It was.
I don't need to ask you how that makes you feel. We can see it. Excited.
Oh, emotional. It's, you know, I know that sometimes, you know, I thought I really wanted to, you know, and I really wanted to bring, like, it was my journey for my family to be able to revive language, because I know it was sometimes too painful for my mum. So, you know, it's never too late to rekindle and revive, and like his mum said, it's never lost, it's just put over here. And we just gotta tap into that and sit back. It's never too late to sit back on country, and it's a beautiful thing for all our generations, and I'm glad that we get to see that.
That was great. Thank you, BARKAA.
Oh, go away. And I'm like, that girl.
Something about talking, how your lip and your ear is connected. You know, so when we hear other mob talking language, it's like, or even Yothu Yindi singing language, we go, I know that. Even if we don't understand it, we know it, because it's words, but it's also speaking to us in a way.
Our brother Jay used to say it's in our DNA, and the more you engage in it, the more you feel it, and you grow with it.
Yeah. And we lost Jay a couple of years ago. It is in our DNA. You know what DNA stands for? National Dyslexic Association. But all jokes aside, we lost Jay a couple of years ago this Christmas, and he was strong in culture, strong in language, and he taught language to kids, and he taught language to my daughter, and my daughter carries it on, and she sings in language and speaks in language, and a lot of kids that still at the high school still carry on what he's taught, and we also have another cousin who is a language holder, but Jay was, I think Jay went into Parliament with a spear, and he was painted up.
He's the only man to take a weapon into Parliament.
Yeah. I think there was one other man to take a weapon into Parliament. Is that right? Am I right?
Murri Butcher.
That's, yeah, it was, yeah.
But he was
They
proud.
didn't use them though.
He was proud of that day, and he come home so excited the fact that we are the third place in the world to have a legislation, and that this is going to be massive for our people. And he come home with a vision of what it was going to look like before the trust was even set up. And and he was so passionate and connected to language that he got excited by the sound of anybody speaking language. And in that moment, he said, was one of the proudest in his life. And it was only surpassed by the birth of his daughter before he passed away.
So we lost our mother, who was strong in language and culture, 5 months before we lost our brother. It was a pretty tough year that year, and Mum was, she was one of the good ones. And I always tell this story. I knew Mum wanted Jay, because Jay was in a what's called a locked-in state. Without saying too much about it, he had a stroke while he was under local. He was under while he was getting a heart transplant, and I knew Mum was going to take him in the end, because I always knew that Jay was her favourite. Even down to when I first got on, and like I'm going off tangent here, off script, but I remember when I was first on Channel 10 for comedy, and I was on there for me talent, not a crime, and I was excited to tell Mum, right? I was really excited to tell Mum, and they said you can't tell her your family until a certain time, like on the weekend. If I told Mum, it's worse than Facebook. But I was able to tell Mum, and I told her that afternoon, I said, hey, guess what, Mum? Yours truly is going to be on TV telling jokes, you know, it's only for 3 minutes, but it's, and this tells you how much Jay was her favourite. Walked in the door, I'm going to be on TV, 7 o'clock tonight, Channel 10, turn it on, you're going to love it. She goes, did you know Jay's got the new Samsung flip phone? Mum, I've got an iPhone. but I make that point because, you know, with language comes comedy as well. Like, I remember going to the Gomeroi Festival, and before I went to the Gomeroi Festival up in Northern Territory, I don't know if anyone's aware of what the Gomeroi Festival is. Culmination, gathering of a lot of different Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander tribes, and they go there and they dance and they sing and they talk about issues facing Aboriginal people and try and work it out with like how many government officials? A million? Prime Minister. Yeah, everyone's there. Everyone who's anyone in Parliament House is there anyway. I remember getting off the truck, I had my skinny jeans on, black shirt, I looked like a mime artist or a comedian. and these little black fellas, like little kids, running around, like so dark with the blonde hair, they were gorgeous little black fellas, and they were looking at me and they were making jokes about me in language. And they were speaking. One of it, our guide said, these kids speak 6 different languages.
I know,
these kids speak 6 different languages and they're all joking about you with your skinny jeans on. This black fella's got all these skinny jeans and all of that, and they're looking at me, Nikes and stuff, and they're all joking about it. And I'm like, get away, you kids, laughing about me like this. I remember a comment, and I won't mention the name, but the comment was made on TV that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are primitive. And the person who made that comment probably can't speak 2 languages. And I found out that the 6 languages these kids were speaking were completely different from one language to the next. So they had to relearn. And I mean, that just highlights how smart our people are.
It goes back to the DNA.
It's in the DNA. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were all having a good laugh anyway.
David Uponi is a good example, the engineer that created the blueprints to the aeroplane, you know, and the shears. They're still in existence. Our people are geniuses.
I think that's where, you know, like I knew a woman who used to be a court liaison officer, and she spoke 10 languages, dialects, you know.
Wow.
And often when people see Aboriginal jobs identified, people go, well, why do they identify Aboriginal jobs? It's like, well, if you can speak 12 languages, knock yourself out, you know. and it is about, language is really important when you do consultation and research and all the rest of it, you know, because it isn't just about the spoken, it's about body language. It's like you said, it's about the humour, the hidden. There's a lot of hidden cues that people aren't aware of. So language isn't just spoken, you know. And I often think of that skit on black comedy where the lad's walking down the street and pretty much talk about the Dubé standing, you know, and doesn't say a thing. And because we do, we communicate, and And it is exactly like when we talk about Indigenous pedagogies, which I'm really pleased to see them being implemented in the classrooms, because Alinta had it implemented throughout her lesson plans, is to show me, you know, if I can't see how to do it, I don't know what it is. You know, it's about moving away from theory and actually showing people how to do it. But language, you know, people have got to realise that it's not just spoken. You know, it's about, you know, I always laugh. I tell Chloe about this friend of mine. He worked in the AG and they did this whole eco, you know, friendly Attorney General building. And when you go in, you know, the lights come on with movement and that. And he used to say to me, I love having meetings with blackfellas. He said, all the non-Aboriginal people come in. He said, because they sit there and they don't move their hands. He said, all the lights keep going out. He said, no, I've got to sit there and do this. He said, but when blackfellas are in the room, because, you know, he said, the lights stay on all the time. Which
You were saying, Joedie, when we were getting mic'd up, that you talk with your hands.
Oh, I do. I'm holding them. I'm holding them because I do. I talk with my hands all the time. But when I lived in the Territory, there was a lot of, certain foods people shared, like mia punul was the dugong. And they would come in or actually turtle, and they'd kind of go, like, you got any? And if you did, then you go like this, and they'd just come in with no words, just come in and share food. And and it was just amazing. But I think that we've always talked with our hands in our family, and we always had humour. And language has kind of always been a part of something in the background, because grandfather tried to instill different things through her humour, especially when it was breakfast time and we asked him if he wanted toast, and he'd go, yep. And you go, what do you want, brown or white bread? And you go, I'll have one of each, and he'd call it birrin.
Yeah.
And he goes, because I'm not racist. But I think Andy got his humour from mum and from pop, and probably half the uncles as well.
Yeah.
And I reckon through adversity, we overcome those hard times with humour. And even in loss of language or loss of culture, we use humour to reconnect and strengthen our bonds. But it's really cool to work in the industry I work in, to see communities starting to reconnect with their languages, and the knowledge, I suppose, that a few generations ago people had to have the knowing to record languages, and knowing that one day they're going to be revived, and being able to help communities access that language through the archives to re-establish something that they thought was lost, but it's there. That's really powerful. And and it just, me, myself, my team, the trust, like it's something that moves us every day, and we're privileged to be in the space we're in, to be a part of that journey with community and watch from the start to the establishment of language in community. It's an exciting place to be.
Well, we're lucky to have you helping our communities do that. And I know you're a maker.
Yeah, I am.
So how does language inform your making, or how your hands work?
I absolutely, yes. I make from our country, so I gather up a lot of resources off country. I also have the privilege of having connections to mob out Brie, and we trade between what we have on country and the coast, and I get emu feathers, so I use emu feathers in my things, and the trade is I carve an egg back. Yeah, so I think that going back to those basic principles of sharing resources, we're not bounded by the boundaries of country when we do those things. Like the boundaries have been brought in from Western society to divide us, and we really need to break down those barriers and share a uniqueness that we have and reconnect across country. And there's similarities too when you sit with a whole heap of mob and you start talking language and just saying little things like naya, mum, you know, that across country it might slightly change, but we know what we're talking about, and there's a similarity right across the country. Yeah, and we need to come together. We need to be one people, many tongues. Yeah, and that, you know, that's powerful. You know, and it's happening. It's going to, you know, the vision of kind of where we're heading. You know, we need to reunite. We need to come together.
Beautiful.
It's exciting.
And so, can you have music without language? Can you have a song without language, or is language song? Or tell me a little bit about how it works in your making.
Oh, it just feels beautiful. I love language. Like, I think it just sounds, you know, I see always inspired, you know, I guess, you know, like being an artist, yeah, you know, seeing Yinnar speaking in language and seeing, you know, other mob and seeing, like, you know, I wanted that. I wanted to be able to be like, oh, I want to speak my language. And I knew that I come from, you know, knew where I come from, and I already knew, like, felt strong in my culture as a Barkindji woman, but I knew that I'd feel so much stronger if I carried my mother's tongue on, you know, on my lips. So I was like, and I want to swear, like, you know, I want to swear out at people in language on stage and point at them and be like, what did she say? And they're just like, war! You know, it's exciting, and I'm like, I feel like it's just such beautiful, like, our languages just sound so, just the way they roll off your tongue, the pronunciations, just knowing that it's 65 plus 1,000 years old. But it feels so beautiful to be able to speak language, and just the way it just sounds.
There is a feeling about it, eh?
Yeah.
Hey, it's a body thing.
Yeah.
It's not just...
I love the fact that one word, it depends on the tone and how you use it, can mean different things. You know, I think of jarnin, you know, when people are jarnin like that, you know, something's, or if they felt sorry, or jarnin, like that. So it's to do with the tone and on how, you know, they actually say it, which I think is really great, because sometimes I find English is just so wordy, and then you have a word for a word for that word, and we've got another word for that word. And I you know, like, English is the hardest language in the world, and I don't think anybody will ever know English. I was recently learning medieval English, which I really...
Nay.
Yes, yeah. And they've got some great words, haven't they, Chloe? But they really do. And, you know, so sometimes you don't need a word, you just need an expression. You know what I mean? You just need to feel it. It's an emotion.
Yeah.
You know, like, sometimes a word just can't do it justice. Have you ever done that, where you try to describe something and it doesn't matter what it's like, it's not going to... You know, so that's what I love about our language, because it's just reliant upon a feeling, emotion, a tone,
But I like
more so than a word, you know.
I like how we've adjusted words for our people as well. Like, we say deadly, right? And I know that's an English word, but we use deadly, and a lot of non-Aboriginal people don't understand it. You know, do you know what that means? You know, but we use it to describe something amazing, great, brilliant, awesome. Well, why don't you use lively? That would be better. No,
Doesn't have the same ring, does it?
I wouldn't say to BARKAA, geez, those shoes are lively. I like the word deadly. And even, like, saying things like, you know, things like the English word for passing gas is fart, but we say bunge. Bunge. It just sounds fun. It sounds like you want to smell it. You know?
Oh no, I don't know about that. But,
Or at least hear it. You know, bunge. And Dubai, I don't know. Dubai means woman, right? Or girlfriend. I mean, I even think that sounds good. I always say, that's my dub there, you know, about my wife of 23 years, woman for 33 years now. But I love the word Dubai. Hey, I want to change all the songs. I want to do a medley of songs with women in it. You know, like no Dubai, don't cry. Dubai, Dubai, Dubai. Let me be your Dubai. Something like that. Do a full medley.
I totally agree with you. It's like even when I think about, you know, Chloe's little fella's got autism and we just call him Muggle or Nunya or Nunya or, you know, or Mile, you know. And I just think that it takes away the hang up, you know, about, because I often think if you talk about cognitive disabilities and, you know, it kind of puts them over there, whereas we just go, oh yeah, they're Muggle.
They got their place in the world.
You know, they're right, they're just Muggly, just, you know, let them be Muggle.
You know, Tyson, that cousin of yours, he's Muggle, isn't he?
Yeah, people, yeah. But I even love the way language is used around children with people with disabilities, you know, because it's not taking away from them, it's just placing them there, you know, and that's fine, they're just Muggles, you know.
That's a good way to put it.
It's a beautiful idea to think there's a place for everyone in our languages, which may not be the same case for English, I don't know.
Yeah. I teach art too, and I had this art class with these kids, and they're like 12 to 18-year-old, and disadvantaged kids. And this one young fella come up to me and he goes, we're doing family trees and doing the U-shapes for the people. And he come up and he goes, oh, my brother is a sister, but he used to be a brother. How do I paint him? I said, he's a U-shape like the rest of us. It's all good. You don't have to represent him any differently. And he goes, oh, that's awesome. So we're all the same. I said, yep, we sure are. You know, and it's really cool. It's a really cool way to like talk about diversity. And I'm just thinking about use of language. And Jay recently had to name a council building at home. And he gave it this name, and he had the meeting with the councillors, and the councillors asked them, you know, because they'd already put the name on the building, asked him to come in and talk about what the word meant. And he goes, it means place that gives lots of money out. But it didn't. And he goes, only joking. And they all looked at each other horrified, going, what? What did we put on our building?
Yeah, they said, we take it, we don't give it.
Yeah, but it's like, that was one of the things Jay used to do, you know, he'd do a lot of language translations and give out words and help name things, but he'd always have that spin of humour in that presentation of what it meant. And there's an amazing little video that he made up to teach people how to say the word, and it starts out, he's just saying it, then it turns into a song with clapsticks. Yeah, and it's just pretty cool.
He was crazy musical.
Yes.
And, you know, when you think of the flooding in Lismore and the Aboriginal word for, do you know what it is for Lismore? Because it actually means floodplains.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, that if they actually knew all the words and listened, then a few buildings mightn't have went up on floodplains, you know. The importance of language when people actually name things, it would have been good if people actually took notice and listened, you know.
Is there any broader Bundjalung? Is there any Bundjalung people
Bundjalung who knows the Lismore?
that knows Lismore? There's 8 dialects of Bundjalung. But there is broader Bundjalung.
I had a fella ring me recently about Guttung words, and he lived on a place that translated to brown snake. And
you wouldn't want to live there, would you?
That's what I said. Do you see many brown snakes up there? He goes, oh, they're everywhere. I said, yeah, nice place to buy. We were clever though. Like a lot of our country has names that have meanings to association to resources or the use of the place or what not to go near.
That's right.
And, you know, when we start to learn those things and share those things, then we can educate everybody else on the uses or the protection of those places. Yeah, like the brown snake place.
Yeah, just stay away
you
from it.
You don't
Yeah,
go there.
just
You don't
go
build a
near it.
house there.
Yeah, no, don't go near it.
And we're going to have questions in a minute, but I just wanted to ask each of you before we wrap up if there was anything that comes to mind or you can think of that language has taught you about yourself. Because we're at this moment where we're is it a flood? A flood of language in our communities in a good way. Yeah. And we're talking about how to engage and teach and share. But it comes the other way too, that it can talk in private ways to you as a knowledge, I think. So if I asked you all if there was anything that language had taught you about yourself.
I'd like to go first on that one. I think I started learning language through Jay 5 years ago, but our language journey started a lot longer before that with Nan writing little storybooks just describing ears, nose and shoulders and doing the, head, shoulders, knees and toes with kindergarten kids. But I remember being at a meeting, and it was actually with one of our board members when he was on ADCHAC, and we were sitting there and they asked us to introduce ourselves, and I was new to the group. And it was the first time I thought in Gatang. Because normally, you're asked to do something, you think in English. And it was the first time I thought in Gatang, and I got really excited, but I couldn't tell anybody. Then I introduced myself in Gatang, and as soon as the meeting was over, I rang up Jay, and I'm like, "Oh, Jay, guess what happened to me?" I was like in a meeting, and I started thinking Gatang. He goes, "Well, good, sister, because that's the next step. You're moving through the phase of learning language." And I felt so empowered in the heart. I felt strong in the heart and my soul. And I said it's a totally different feeling having a connection to language than it is to English. English you grow up with and there's not really a sense of belonging in it. But when you learn your language and you have that connection, it just opens so many things up for you. And you see things differently. Yeah, so it was like a powerful moment for me, and I'm starting to move through the phases. I'm still not fluent in Gatang, but I'm going to keep going, keep learning.
Deadly.
Yeah.
I've learnt that I've got a lot to learn, but I've learnt that everything's connected, and I think learning language opens doors. It's like a, I don't know, it's like we're always on a mission. Like we're on a mission, but we're wishing for more opportunities for people on a mission. And we're always looking in doorways, in the wrong hallways. A lot of doors close, but not always. So, I mean, if we
hip hop beat now?
if we just realise how important language is to us, and not worry about us being Bunjalang, Biripai, Barkanji, Warramai, Dungari, Gumbangi, Gadigal. Just think of us as people who can acquire their actual skills today. They will open doors. And I'm not talking about doors in a mainstream world. I'm talking about doors in your own life as a human being living on this planet.
Beautiful, Russ.
You can go next, I'm still thinking.
That's pressure. I was going to copy everything you said.
No, I'm going to copy you now.
And make it mine. No, I think it's, I think it was, really resonating with what both of you said and what, what we've been speaking about. I think it's that what I've learned, I never feel stupid when I'm learning my culture. Like if I go to learn something in school, or sometimes I'd be made to feel that's too hard, you're not smart enough to do that, that's too difficult. But I've never once felt like that learning my culture or reviving my language. I've always felt, wow, I can take on more now, and I get so excited, and I'm like, there's so much to learn, like, and so much, every piece that I find out about myself, I'm building stronger. Like, I feel like I'm like, putting pieces together for myself to be that honourable ancestor, you know? And I think I'm just that, you know, that opening doorways for yourself. Like, I feel so powerful when I got my culture and my language by my side, and to be able to, you know, bring it back and to like share it in our homes is like, it's a feeling.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I love listening to the Welcome to Country, and I get annoyed when people say, I don't need welcoming to my country, and it's like, that's their country that they're welcoming you to. They're not welcoming you to Australia. They're welcoming you to their country. And I love to know whose country, you know, like there's 200 nations, 250, 200. Which one?
250 plus.
Yeah, in New South Wales.
In Adelaide, no. In Australia. But, you know, I love going around, like, and I love Chloe BARKAA because when she does tours, you know, she always reaches out to get someone to welcome her on their country. And she takes the videos and shows me, and I just love them. I get so emotional to watch people welcome her in their language onto their country, you know, and then sharing things with her about their country, you know. And that's just so beautiful to see, you know, like through BARKAA going on her language journey and bringing it back home, and even Alinta, you know, through her high school. You know, it makes me so proud, even when I see Aboriginal organisations and businesses taking on their tradition, you know, taking on names and seeing things pop up all over the place. You get such a sense of pride, and because I automatically will connect to them then, even though they don't know me from Barra Soap, I'll just be, But that's you feel so proud of them. You know, you feel you're so proud of their achievements. Like even to see the mob going overseas, Indigenous Fashion Week over in New York. What's your mate's name? Kunji artist. You know, to see them going overseas and it's in language and it's promoting internationally, and you have this real pride for them, don't you? Yeah. Like I've just grown 8 feet just by watching, you know, artists doing it in language, promoting culture, you know. It's just so powerful. So certainly from being denied as a child and not allowed to speak it until, you know, the teenagers where I spoke a bit of everything, you know, but nothing really sometimes. But, and then to, like Chloe's BARKAA's really grounded me, because Nan wouldn't speak, my family wouldn't speak it. So, you know, just to go back on that journey, when we went home and watching the little ones sing, they were singing head, shoulders, knees and toes and BARKAA too, and I'm just standing there just about crying, you know. Yeah. It's beautiful because it's the tone, it's the pride, it's everything involved in it. Yeah. So that's my, and look, I can't thank you, the education, you know, Language Week, you know, enough to be promoting language, you know, because I was just so proud, and when we had the celebrations in at the NIC last week, just coming off the referendum,
I know,
to have us all gather is what we needed. I really needed that. You know, I couldn't have, you know, you couldn't have actually timed it any better than what it was to be brought together and have a celebration of language and culture and all the Aboriginal businesses and enterprises coming together. Like, it was really a brilliant showcase of, you know, Aboriginal, culture coming together. So that, you know, your timing was perfect. Perfect.
Impeccable.
You know.
Needed that.
But it, you know, having Chloe BARKAA as the ambassador and watching her journey, because I go up on Facebook and watch us all the time, you know. So, and you're right about mothers, you know. She never tells me anything, otherwise it'll be up on Facey before. So much truth in that. And isn't there, Viv? Yeah. Viv's Chloe's manager, and I don't know how many times she's told me to get something down off Facey. But that's my right as a mother to do that.
You don't do what our mum used to do, like on public forums. She says, "Can you bring us 2 litres of milk?" And everyone sees it.
I haven't tried that. I'll have to try that.
Your brother's in hospital. Come and get him under your selfie, eh?
Yeah, so
She's not that bad.
and even on Facebook, it was interesting. You know, Indigenous X did a survey, and even how Aboriginal people use Facebook is totally different to how non-Aboriginal people, because we use it, you know, to look at language or
Track people down.
track people down. Yeah, we use track people down.
Yes.
So even the way we use it is totally different. It's really good. We see what events are going
bingo
on.
very normal during COVID. Did you see them black fellas made
Have we
bingo
got
pages?
bingo,
Yeah,
eh?
and you play bingo on Facebook. Fun.
Good
Great.
thing I don't play bingo, isn't it?
I was like, trust black fellas.
I tell you what was a really proud moment for me is when we did our filming for Andy back home, and I'd never heard Andy speak language, and he walked into the language class and said, "Weeaboo, Natawa, Andy Saunders," and I was like, "Oh, Andy!" It just made me so
seeing
excited.
language,
Yeah.
isn't it? Up there even on Facebook, like there's an NT politician up there, and I follow him, and he never speaks English. Most of the time, it's in language. I just like looking at the language on there, even if I don't like. Sometimes you know. Once when I was on this committee, we had one lad who'd talk in his language and come around English and go on his language and come around English. But if you listened and watched his body language, you'd actually know what he was talking about. You know, and that's what I love about language too, is if you follow the body language, and I can get a gist of whether you're going to hit me over the head or cuddle me, you know. So, you know, that, but I find, you know, and I can't thank the education, you know, to raise language mob to raise it enough, because it's really brilliant, you know. It's going to change the future generation, and like you say, it'll change the landscape and everything,
Absolutely.
you know. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you.
I think that'd be a good strategy to have a politician just speak language the whole time. It might be the way we get what we need for our people. There's all the other parties would be like,
that is actually.
Yeah.
What we could do is actually just write every word for hello across every nation across Australia, and have Minister Harris actually say hello to everybody it'd take you a couple of hours.
You could do the voice in language and nobody'd know what policy is, and you just say, just vote yes. I think you're onto something. Yeah.
They'll all be like, we'll vote on that. I don't know what you mean, but we'll vote yes.
Well, BARKAA got Albanese to say Budu, so.
I didn't have anything else. Not that I was thinking about it. But Dobby. But yeah, I just language. In time for Languages Week, I think somebody commented underneath. Did you? Was it you? It was you, Minister. Just in time for Languages Week, and I'm like. Felt really good as an ambassador. I'm like, yeah, I like it. But Budu's, again, not a Barkindji word. We use thata.
Minister David will walk away from this week talking real black. He came to the week opening the festival like, it's wonderful to be here. it's going to be an amazing week. I support this week. I support everyone here. Blah blah blah. End of the week, he's like, "Nah, I'm stuffed. I'm not going for mad feed."
He ate Debbie.
3 hours in the elders.
Yeah. We're doing curry bingo.
We better move on to questions. But I mean, I just think I saw Albo and I've got to be careful. I put Albo and Buru together. I saw the video and the power of one word, you know. And a lot of our mob in New South Wales, we used to hear a lot. Oh, I know a little bit. I know a little bit of language. But in one word, you have everything.
Yeah.
Hey? And we're feeling that more and more with Claire and Joedie and the team's deadly work. So we're going to go to questions. There is a microphone. Put your hand up and we'll come over to you. And maybe questions, not comments, would be nice.
Just yes, no ones. If that's right. No drilling questions.
Warami Niliga, Budri Nami Nodawa. So good to see you. I'm speaking in Darug language. And did recall about those initial thoughts when Nan turned 74 today. She was still with us. So thinking of her, a Darug, strong Darug woman. Thanks for everyone. It was great hearing from you. I want to know from you, Andy, are you funnier when you're speaking English or your language? Or do you think you're funnier when you speak?
I think I'm funnier than what my wife does. But I'm yet to put language in a joke, but I do want to. I do a lot of jokes that raise issues, and you know, I try and make people laugh while they're in the room, and then on their way home they're like, "Oh, now I know what that Indian comedian was talking about." So they learn on their way home. So that's a great question. I'm definitely going to be developing jokes in the future with language in them, but I'd have to do the setup. But I think it's a really beautiful suggestion. Do you want to manage me or something?
Teach me the language so at least there's one person laughing.
Yeah.
Because just in case no one else knows what you're saying.
That is a long show, hey. First, people, thanks for buying a ticket. We're going to do an hour language lesson first. And then I'll do my set. It'll be a 5-minute set.
One joke.
Any other quizzes?
So I'm not sure how to word it, but with like all the setbacks that us as First Nations people have had over the years, and going into the future generations, what would you hope for us as Indigenous people to, like, what do you think we're going to be in the future?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, of course.
So my hope or goal would be to see a more immersive learning environment for our people and have kids having what was supposed to be their first language, and their second language, English. That I don't know when that future arrives, but that would be the end goal for me. That's for me.
I'd personally like to see, like school used to go to, they had welcome in Durrick on the school gate as you walked in. It was lovely and big, and when they put the sign out, I'm just standing out the front crying and don't mind me, everybody. I'm just so proud of that sign right there. While the other parents are walking past, going, But I'd love to, and then they've got all the classrooms in language, in Durrick language, which is really great. I'd love to see everything indigenised. I want to see black out everywhere, you know, because I think in New Zealand, you know, how they're so proud of you know, their identity as Maori Pākehās, you know, like, I just think, wow, why, like, we've got to have that pride instilled here in Australia. You know, you're seeing it slowly with Nam and, you know, all the cities going over into Aboriginal names and all that, but I'd like to see where people, you know, when they live on country, someone's country, learn about that country. Like I said, you might stop you from living in a flood or on lands with snake pits. Yeah, so, you know, I think it's really important for everybody to actually, not just black fellas, you know, I'd certainly love to see us do it first, but, you know, I'd love to see everybody have that sense of pride around language too.
I want my babies to be proud and walk tall in who they are. Like, I know my youngest is really fair, super fair, but he thinks he's the darkest in the family. But just to reconnect through language, through dance, through land, and that be a part of school. So not just for our Koori kids, but have that broader understanding for all kids in school that this is what country means. And if we're going to live here together, we've got to look after it together and we've got to move forward together and learn our language, learn our culture, because we are here. We've been here more than 65,000 years and we're going to be here for thousands and thousands more. So get to know us, you know, walk with us. We've been waiting 250 years. I think it's long enough. Yeah.
We've got one more.
Hi, I'm Nikki. Okay. I'm Nikki from Alice Springs in Bantua. I'm just so I'm not familiar with the policy, but I'm interested in how it's unfolding in the school system, the introduction of Aboriginal language and teaching of it in the school system. I heard that was happening.
Yeah, there was an announcement by the Education Minister last year about the implementation of languages in schools by 2024. The issue with the announcement is that our mob need to learn language and have teachers that are Aboriginal in schools paid for the services that they provide the schools. So education needs to slow down so our community can catch up. And in the Trust, we assist in the development and of training and education in language and building the capacity of our people to teach language. But it needs to be Aboriginal people teaching languages in school. It needs to be a designated paid position that's permanent, not temporary. And that needs to be the commitment by Department of Ed and the Minister for Education for our future to be successful with language in schools. In schools where it has been taught, there's a school in our hometown which is a connected community school, and they've been teaching language for the past 5 years to all students. So they start from year 7 through to year 10 and then it becomes an elective. And kids sing in language, they speak in language, there's acknowledgement of language on everything in the school. And the way that the school operates is completely different. There's even a different form of pride in Biripi people. Jay titled it and he had a shirt for it called Biripi Dilungari, which means Biripi with pride. And everybody wears that shirt.
Everyone.
Don't matter what colour you are, they're wearing Jay's shirt that says that we're walking with pride as Biripi people on our nation.
But there are practical standards that go with that too, that only just sort of came out, where anyone teaching language will have to have a qualification and a minimum standard qualification. Because, I mean, if you're teaching English, you still have to have a qualification because there's a lot of lit numeracy skills that you need to have in addition so that you can actually teach it properly and people can get the right qualification or the right teaching and learning involved. I know that because I used to work for TAFE.
There's also There's also something that the Trust funds, and that's Gay Freedom School up in Coffs Harbour, which is like a foundation school in language and the first in the state, which has been really successful. So, you know, moving forward, I suppose our responsibility as a Trust would be supporting additional funding coming from other spaces so we can invest in the startup for other communities, but to have them fully funded, so they're funded like a Department of Ed school, to operate in the way that they operate. And they're achieving great things, like the way that the school operates, the kids. There's 3 people we're supporting to get their teachers' degrees to meet education standards. But, you know, there's huge possibilities. Really, it's up to, or determined by the limitation of our own imagination. Yeah, and we all know as Aboriginal people, we got some wild imaginations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
We
see,
dream
with
big.
that connected communities school too, there was no English spoken in any of those classes. Ben and Jay and Josh would not allow English to be spoken in the class. So it was just all Gatang.
For 40 minutes. And they did create a twister game in Gatang, which is quite entertaining.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I'm working on Aboriginalising Monopoly game as well. This is, you know, like you get $200 when you pass go, but it's owed to you. Yeah.
So you don't get it.
Well, not until payday. And it's in increments.
Not royalties.
20, I can only give you 20.
Yeah, can I give you 20 this week? All right.
I'm going to ask everybody to give our panellists a big round of applause. Please. Thanks, Joedie, Andy, Cleonie, and
Wow. Time flew and I could have sat there for another couple of hours just listening to it. It's engaging, and I've just written down a few words. Story, sorry business, loss, family, connections, sharing, knowledge, teachers, pride, humour, tears, history, strong of soul, strong of heart, opening doors, identity, seeing things differently, putting pieces back together again. And I'm mindful that I've just flown in from another conference over in Perth, and I was left profound by the Welcome to Country by Uncle Walter. And Uncle Walter said to the audience, he said he was very thankful for his family and his culture and his language, and that he had to go to a Western school to learn English, and he didn't learn it very well. And for me, that was a quote that I took away from me, because here in New South Wales, with the legislation and the celebration this week of acknowledging our languages and hearing stories from this beautiful panel out here, and each and every one of us as Aboriginal people and Murri people out there, or Gomeroi people, have our own stories to share. But to see and to listen to the strength of language that's out there, and to see it in practice and being enacted every day. And it's okay, us blackfellas don't really know because of what's historically happened to us, but that's okay. So if we don't know, that's okay. But at least the language's trust is a connector, and that can enable people to be connected back to place, back to country, who have been displaced by past government policies that have occurred here. And it's our responsibility to ensure that languages is living, thriving, and out there for all of us. And in particular, it is up to us as Aboriginal people to ensure that that is carried on for time immemorial, because when I reflect back again and hear the stories that are out there and the humour that goes with it, and we are the oldest living surviving peoples on this planet. So we have got story, and we have got language, we have got knowledge, and we have got culture. If you want any further information, jump on www.alt.nsw.gov.au and see all the wonderful things that the Trust has been doing. I feel really, really, really proud. Last week when we were at the NCIE and we started a celebration of Aboriginal excellence that's out there, tend to look in deficit, but when you think of the excellence that's out there, it's amazing and it's endless. So reach out to your local communities too. Reach out and have a yarn to the mob and ensure that this isn't just the beginning. It's always been there, but we're just continuing that journey into our next phase. Please welcome, please thank Nadia for her excellent and to each of our panel members, I say to you, Gomeroi Madava, thank you. And good evening. Thanks for joining us.